In today's episode, we're examining 5 devastating encounters with nature's most efficient predators. From a wildlife photographer who got too close in Botswana to a backpacker whose final swim ended in tragedy in Australia's Daintree River. But first, we begin with a fishing guide whose years of experience couldn't save him from one final mistake. It was March 15, 2014, when the remote billabongs of Kakudu National Park in Australia's Northern Territory witnessed one of the most devastating crocodile attacks ever recorded. The ancient landscape stretched endlessly under the scorching sun, where paperback trees cast long shadows across murky waters that had remained unchanged for thousands of years. This pristine wilderness, home to some of the world's largest saltwater crocodiles, would become the final destination for an experienced local fishing guide who had grown dangerously complacent after years of successful expeditions. Jackson Cole had spent 12 years navigating these treacherous waters, building a reputation as one of the territory's most knowledgeable guides. The 34-year-old possessed an intimate understanding of crocodile behavior and habitat patterns, knowledge that had kept countless tourists safe during his career. His calm demeanor and extensive expertise made him a favorite among visiting anglers seeking the ultimate Australian fishing experience. However, recent personal struggles following his bitter divorce had driven Jackson to seek solitude in increasingly remote locations, often venturing alone into areas he would never recommend to clients. On this particular morning, he chose his secret fishing spot, a secluded billabong known only to a handful of locals. The irony was unmistakable. A man who had dedicated his life to teaching others about crocodile safety would soon become victim to his own overconfidence. The saltwater crocodile, known scientifically as Crocodile ferocious, represents the apex predator of Australia's northern waterways. These prehistoric giants can reach lengths exceeding 6 meters and possess the strongest bite force of any living animal, delivering crushing pressure of up to 3,700 pounds per square inch. Their hunting strategy relies on perfect camouflage and explosive ambush tactics, remaining motionless for hours before striking with lightning speed. During the wet season, territorial males become increasingly aggressive, defending prime hunting grounds from any perceived threat. These ancient predators have survived virtually unchanged for over 200 million years, perfecting their killing techniques through countless generations. Their ability to remain completely still while submerged makes them nearly invisible to unsuspecting prey. Jackson's fatal mistake occurred when his fishing line snagged on submerged timber 20 meters from shore. Rather than cutting the expensive lure loose as he would have advised any client, Jackson made the decision that would cost him his life. He rolled up his pants and waded into the knee-deep water, completely abandoning the safety protocols he had preached for over a decade. The massive 5-meter saltwater crocodile had been lying motionless in the shallows for hours, perfectly camouflaged among floating debris and fallen branches, waiting with the infinite patience that made these predators so deadly. As Jackson reached for his tangled line, the prehistoric predator exploded from the water with devastating force. The crocodile's massive jaws clamped down on Jackson's torso, the crushing pressure instantly fracturing multiple ribs and puncturing vital organs. The impact alone would have been fatal, but the crocodile's instinctive behavior sealed Jackson's fate. The predator immediately initiated its signature death roll, spinning Jackson's body underwater with tremendous force. The first rotation shattered his spine, while subsequent rolls systematically broke bones throughout his body. Jackson's life ended during the third rotation as massive trauma and drowning occurred simultaneously. Blood clouded the water as the crocodile maintained its death grip. The crocodile dragged Jackson's lifeless body to deeper water, wedging it beneath a submerged log where decomposition would tenderize the flesh before feeding. This caching behavior is typical of large saltwater crocodiles, which often store prey for days or weeks before consumption. Park rangers discovered Jackson's abandoned vehicle 3 days later, initiating a massive search operation involving helicopters, boats, and experienced trackers. His body was eventually located by divers in the crocodile's underwater cache, confirming the worst fears of the search team. The incident prompted renewed calls for enhanced safety measures in remote areas of Crocodile, though many locals argued that Jackson's death resulted from a momentary lapse in judgment rather than inadequate warnings. Tourism operators throughout the territory implemented additional safety briefings following the tragedy, and the attack sent shockwaves through the tight-knit guiding community. Jackson's family released a statement emphasizing his lifelong dedication to wildlife conservation and his deep respect for the dangerous animals he worked alongside. The Northern Territory government launched an investigation into guide safety protocols, though no systemic failures were identified. Jackson Cole's story showed how overconfidence proves deadly against apex predators. For Ava Montgomery, Botswana's Chobe River would bring her one step too close. It was August 7, 2015, when the pristine waters of the Chobe River in Botswana became the scene of a horrific wildlife attack that would shock the international photography community. The river stretched endlessly through the heart of Africa's most celebrated wildlife corridor, where elephants gathered in massive herds and predators lurked beneath the deceptively calm surface. Ancient baobab trees dotted the landscape, while the African sun cast golden reflections across waters that concealed one of the continent's most dangerous inhabitants. Ava Montgomery had traveled from London with dreams of capturing the perfect wildlife photograph that would launch her career to new heights. The ambitious 28-year-old photographer had built a reputation for taking extraordinary risks to get shots that other professionals wouldn't attempt. Her boyfriend James, a more cautious 31-year-old, had accompanied her on this African adventure, though he grew increasingly concerned about her reckless behavior around dangerous animals. Ava's obsession with getting closer than anyone else had already produced stunning images of lions and leopards, but it had also created a dangerous pattern of ignoring safety warnings. Local guides had repeatedly warned the couple about increased crocodile activity during the current mating season, but Ava dismissed their concerns as overcautious. On this particular morning, she had spotted several large crocodiles basking on the opposite bank and became fixated on capturing an unprecedented close-up shot. The Nile crocodile, scientifically known as Crocodilius niloticus, ranks among Africa's most formidable predators and the second largest crocodilian species in the world. These ancient hunters can reach lengths of up to 6 meters and possess crushing bite forces exceeding 5,000 pounds per square inch. Their hunting strategy relies on perfect camouflage and explosive ambush attacks, often remaining submerged for hours with only their eyes and nostrils visible above the waterline. During mating season, territorial males become exceptionally aggressive, viewing any movement near their domain as a potential threat. These prehistoric killers have perfected their techniques over millions of years, making them virtually undetectable until the moment they strike. Ava's fatal mistake occurred when she positioned herself just 3 meters from the water's edge, completely ignoring James's desperate pleas for her to move back to safety. She had become so focused on adjusting her telephoto lens that she lost all awareness of her surroundings. The massive 4-meter Nile crocodile had been lying motionless near the bank for over an hour, perfectly camouflaged among floating vegetation and debris. As Ava leaned forward to capture a drinking elephant in the background, she triggered the predator's explosive attack response. The crocodile launched itself onto the muddy bank with terrifying speed, covering the distance to Ava in less than 2 seconds. Its massive jaws snapped shut around her head and shoulders with devastating force, the crushing pressure instantly fracturing her skull and cervical vertebrae. The impact alone caused massive trauma to her brain and spinal cord, but the crocodile's next instinctive behavior ensured there would be no chance of survival. The predator immediately retreated into deeper water, dragging Ava's limp body beneath the surface. It began performing violent thrashing motions designed to disorient and drown its prey, though Ava had already lost consciousness from the initial crushing injuries. The crocodile's powerful jaws maintain their grip as it performs several death rolls, systematically breaking bones throughout her torso. Within 90 seconds, massive trauma and drowning had claimed her life. The predator then dragged her body to an underwater cave system, wedging it among tangled roots and debris where decomposition would begin. James's screams attracted other tourists and guides, who immediately launched rescue boats, but the crocodile had already disappeared into the murky depths with its victim. Despite extensive search efforts involving local authorities and professional divers, Ava's body was never recovered from the complex underwater cave system. The Botswana Department of Wildlife launched a comprehensive investigation into the incident, though officials concluded that inadequate safety precautions by the victim were the primary cause. The attack prompted international wildlife photography organizations to issue new safety guidelines for working near crocodile habitats. Tourism operators along the Chobe River implemented stricter protocols requiring photographers to maintain minimum distances from the water's edge. Ava's family released a statement through the British Embassy, describing her as a passionate conservationist who died pursuing her dreams. The photography community mourned the loss of a talented artist whose work had already begun gaining recognition in prestigious wildlife magazines. While Ava Montgomery's pursuit of the perfect shot ended tragically in Botswana's waters, for Tessa Langford, Kruger National Park would prove that one moment of poor judgment can be fatal. It was June 22, 2016, when the vast wilderness of Kruger National Park in South Africa became the setting for a family camping trip that would end in an unimaginable tragedy. The ancient landscape stretched across 2 million hectares of pristine African bush, where acacia trees dotted the savanna and seasonal water holes attracted countless species of wildlife. Under the southern hemisphere's winter sky, the park's remote camping areas offered families an authentic wilderness experience, though they also harbored dangers that many visitors underestimated. Tessa Langford had meticulously planned this camping expedition as a way to reconnect her family with nature and teach her 2 young children about African wildlife. The 42-year-old software engineer from Johannesburg possessed a methodical personality that served her well in the corporate world, but she lacked practical experience with wilderness camping. Her husband Mark had expressed constant concerns about the safety of camping so close to dangerous wildlife, but Tessa repeatedly reassured him that proper precautions would keep their family safe. Despite ranger warnings about recent crocodile sightings near popular water holes, Tessa had chosen a campsite just 50 meters from one of the park's most frequented drinking spots. Her decision was driven by the spectacular wildlife viewing opportunities the location offered, particularly during the early morning and evening hours when animals came to drink. The irony was tragic. A devoted mother's desire to create magical memories for her children would ultimately lead to her own destruction. The Nile crocodile represents one of Africa's most successful apex predators, having survived virtually unchanged for over 200 million years. These formidable reptiles can reach lengths exceeding 5 meters and possess bite forces that rank among the strongest in the animal kingdom, delivering crushing pressure of up to 5,000 pounds per square inch. Their hunting strategy relies on perfect camouflage and patient ambush tactics, often remaining motionless in shallow water for hours while waiting for prey to approach. During the dry season, when water sources become scarce, crocodiles concentrate around permanent water holes, making them areas extremely dangerous for unsuspecting visitors. These ancient predators are primarily nocturnal hunters, becoming most active during the cooler evening and pre-dawn hours when their cold-blooded metabolism operates most efficiently. Tessa's fatal mistake occurred at 2 in the morning when she was awakened by strange splashing sounds and low grunting noises emanating from the direction of the water hole. Concerned about potential threats to her sleeping family, she quietly unzipped the tent and stepped into the cool night air without waking her husband or children. Rather than using a flashlight that might have revealed the danger lurking in the shadows, Tessa chose to investigate the disturbance in complete darkness to avoid alerting whatever animals might be present. The large Nile crocodile had been hunting near the waterhole's edge, attracted by the lingering scent of the family's dinner scraps that had been improperly disposed of earlier that evening. As Tessa approached within 5 meters of the water's edge, the 4.5-meter crocodile exploded from the shallows with devastating speed. Its massive jaws clamped around both of Tessa's legs just below the knees, the crushing force instantly severing major arteries and shattering bone. The crocodile's razor-sharp teeth punctured through muscle and tissue, causing catastrophic blood loss within seconds. Tessa's piercing scream shattered the night's silence, immediately waking her terrified family inside the tent. The predator began dragging her toward deeper water, its powerful limbs propelling both hunter and victim into the murky depths. Once in its preferred environment, the crocodile initiated a series of violent death rolls, spinning Tessa's body underwater with tremendous force. The first rotation broke her pelvis, while subsequent rolls systematically fractured her ribs and spine. The combination of massive trauma, blood loss, and drowning claimed Tessa's life within 2 minutes of the initial attack. Her husband's desperate attempts to reach the water were futile, as the crocodile had already disappeared into the deeper sections of the waterhole. Park rangers responded to Mark's emergency radio call within 30 minutes, but recovery efforts were hampered by darkness and the presence of multiple crocodiles in the area. Tessa's body was eventually located the following morning by professional divers, though the extensive trauma made identification challenging. The crocodile had cached her remains in a secluded inlet, typical behavior for these predators who often store prey for later consumption. The South African National Parks Authority launched a comprehensive investigation into the incident, ultimately concluding that improper food storage and campsite selection were contributing factors. The tragedy prompted new safety protocols requiring campers to maintain greater distances from water sources and implement stricter food storage requirements. Enhanced warning systems were installed at popular camping areas throughout Kruger National Park. The incident sparked nationwide discussions about balancing wildlife tourism with visitor safety in South Africa's national parks. While Tessa Langford's family trip ended tragically at Kruger's waterhole, Marcus Holloway's research in Brazil's Pantanal would prove that academic preparation has its limits. It was September 14, 2017, when the remote wetlands of Brazil's Pantanal became the scene of a research expedition that would end in devastating tragedy. The world's largest tropical wetland stretched endlessly across the horizon, where seasonal flooding created a complex maze of rivers, lagoons, and marshes teeming with wildlife. Ancient cattle ranches dotted the landscape, while countless species of bird filled the air above waters that concealed some of South America's most dangerous predators. This pristine ecosystem, largely untouched by human development, would become the final workplace for a promising young scientist. Marcus Holloway had arrived in the Pantanal 3 weeks earlier as part of a graduate research team studying caiman population dynamics and behavior patterns. The brilliant 26-year-old biology student from Sao Paulo University possessed exceptional academic credentials and an insatiable curiosity about reptilian behavior. But his intellectual confidence often translated into dangerous overconfidence in the field. Working alongside 2 fellow graduate students, Marcus had been conducting population surveys and tagging smaller caimans without incident, leading him to believe he had mastered the techniques required for handling these powerful predators. His methodical approach to data collection had impressed his supervising professors, but it had also created a false sense of security about working with large specimens. The team had been specifically warned about the increased aggression of adult caimans during the current breeding season. Yet Marcus had begun taking increasingly risky shortcuts to accelerate their research timeline. On this particular afternoon, his academic ambition would override the safety protocols that had kept him alive for nearly a month in one of the world's most dangerous ecosystems. The Yacari caiman, scientifically known as Caiman yacari, represents one of South America's most successful crocodilian species and a formidable apex predator throughout the Pantanal region. These powerful reptiles typically reach lengths of up to 3 meters, though exceptional specimens can grow considerably larger during their decades-long lifespan. Their muscular bodies are perfectly adapted for explosive attacks, with powerful jaws capable of crushing bone, and tails that can deliver devastating blows to unsuspecting prey. During the breeding season, territorial males become exceptionally aggressive, defending prime basking and nesting areas from any perceived threats. Their hunting strategy combines patient ambush tactics with lightning-fast strikes, making them nearly impossible to escape once an attack begins. Unlike their larger crocodilian cousins, caimans are known for their unpredictable temperament and willingness to attack creatures much larger than their typical prey when defending territory. Marcus's fatal mistake occurred when he spotted a large male caiman basking on a muddy bank and decided to attempt capture for measurement and tagging without waiting for his two companions, who were cataloging smaller specimens approximately 100 meters away. The 3-meter caiman appeared lethargic in the intense afternoon heat, encouraging Marcus to believe he could handle the capture alone using only a basic snare pole and measuring tape. University protocol clearly required multiple researchers for any specimen exceeding 2 meters in length, but Marcus's overconfidence in his abilities led him to ignore these safety guidelines. He approached the massive reptile from the wrong angle, giving the caiman a clear escape route to the water while positioning himself in the most vulnerable location possible. As Marcus attempted to position the snare around the caiman's neck, the reptile exploded into action with terrifying speed and violence. Its powerful tail swept Marcus's legs with tremendous force, sending him crashing to the muddy ground and leaving him completely defenseless. Before Marcus could recover his footing, the caiman's massive jaws locked onto his right arm just below the elbow, the crushing pressure instantly shattering both radius and ulna bones while severing major blood vessels. Marcus's screams echoed across the wetlands as the caiman began its signature death roll, twisting his arm with such violence that the limb was completely torn from its socket within seconds. Arterial blood sprayed across the muddy bank as Marcus attempted to crawl away from his attacker, but the caiman immediately seized his throat in its powerful jaws. The predator's razor-sharp teeth punctured his carotid artery and jugular veins simultaneously, causing massive blood loss that would prove fatal within minutes. The caiman maintained its crushing grip on Marcus's neck, systematically destroying vital structures while his life ebbed away. His body went into shock from the combination of severe trauma and catastrophic blood loss, leading to unconsciousness and death within 4 minutes of the initial attack. The caiman dragged Marcus's lifeless body toward the water's edge, though it abandoned the corpse when his two companions arrived at the scene, their shouts and frantic movements causing the predator to retreat into deeper water. Brazilian wildlife authorities launched an immediate investigation into the incident, focusing on whether proper safety protocols had been followed during the research expedition. The university suspended all fieldwork in the Pantanal pending a comprehensive review of student safety procedures. New regulations were implemented requiring constant supervision for any research involving large reptiles, along with mandatory safety equipment for all field teams. While Marcus Holloway's research ambitions ended tragically in Brazil's wetlands, for Savannah Brooks, Australia's Daintree River would prove that paradise can hide deadly secrets. It was November 3rd, 2018, when the pristine waters of the Daintree River in Queensland, Australia, became the scene of one of the most preventable crocodile attacks in the region's history. The ancient rainforest stretched along the riverbanks, where towering trees created a canopy that remained unchanged for millions of years. This World Heritage listed wilderness, known for its incredible biodiversity and stunning natural beauty, also harbored some of Australia's most dangerous predators. The tropical paradise that attracted thousands of international visitors each year would become the final destination for a young Spanish backpacker whose adventurous spirit would ultimately cost her everything. Savannah Brooks had been traveling through Australia for 6 months as part of her gap year adventure, exploring the continent's most remote and beautiful locations with 3 fellow backpackers from Europe. The spirited 23-year-old from Madrid possessed an infectious enthusiasm for new experiences, but her impulsive nature often led her to ignore safety warnings that more cautious travelers heeded. On this particular evening, the group had spent hours at a riverside pub near the Daintree River, consuming alcohol and celebrating their successful journey through the Australian wilderness. Despite numerous crocodile warning signs posted prominently along the riverbank, Savannah had become fixated on the idea of swimming in the murky tropical waters. Her 3 friends repeatedly protested her dangerous plan, but their alcohol-impaired judgment prevented them from physically restraining her when she made the decision that would seal her fate. The saltwater crocodile, Australia's apex aquatic predator, represents one of the most successful hunters on Earth, having survived virtually unchanged for over 200 million years. These prehistoric giants can reach lengths exceeding 7 meters and possess the strongest bite force of any living creature, delivering crushing pressure that can exceed 3,700 pounds per square inch. Their hunting strategy relies on perfect camouflage and explosive ambush attacks, often remaining completely motionless in murky water for hours while waiting for unsuspecting prey to enter their domain. During the warmer months, territorial males become increasingly aggressive, patrolling prime hunting areas and viewing any disturbance as a potential threat or opportunity. These ancient predators are perfectly adapted for aquatic hunting, with powerful tails that propel them through water at surprising speed. Savannah's fatal mistake occurred when she stripped to her underwear and waded into the crocodile-infested waters, despite her friends' increasingly desperate attempts to dissuade her from the suicidal decision. The alcohol in her system had severely impaired her judgment and reaction time, while also giving her false confidence about her swimming abilities in dangerous conditions. She entered the water at a location where multiple warning signs clearly indicated the presence of large saltwater crocodiles, but her intoxicated state prevented her from processing the severity of the threat. The water reached her waist as she began swimming toward the center of the river channel, creating vibrations that immediately attracted the attention of a massive 4.5-meter saltwater crocodile lurking in the deeper sections. As Savannah treaded water approximately 30 meters from shore, completely unaware of the mortal danger approaching from beneath, the massive crocodile positioned itself directly below her vulnerable body. The attack was swift and absolutely devastating when it came. The crocodile's enormous jaws erupted from the water with explosive force, engulfing Savannah's entire torso in a crushing grip that instantly fractured multiple ribs and punctured both lungs. The crushing pressure of the predator's bite compressed Savannah's chest cavity, causing massive internal bleeding and preventing any possibility of breathing. The crocodile immediately dragged her beneath the surface, initiating a series of violent death rolls designed to disorient and drown its prey. The first rotation broke Savannah's spine at multiple points, while subsequent rolls systematically destroyed her internal organs and skeletal structure. The combination of crushing trauma, massive blood loss, and drowning claimed her life within 90 seconds of the initial attack, Her friend's horrified screams from the riverbank were futile, as the crocodile had already disappeared into the murky depths with its victim. Emergency services responded within minutes of the frantic emergency call, but extensive search efforts involving police divers, helicopters, and specialized crocodile capture teams failed to locate any trace of Savannah's remains. The massive predator had likely dragged her body to an underwater cave system where decomposition would begin before feeding. Queensland authorities launched a comprehensive investigation into the incident, though officials concluded that adequate warning systems were already in place and that victim negligence was the primary contributing factor. The tragedy prompted renewed calls for enhanced safety measures at popular tourist destinations. Local tourism operators implemented additional safety briefings for international visitors, emphasizing the lethal nature of Australia's crocodile population. Savannah's family traveled from Spain to coordinate search efforts, and eventually held a memorial service along the Daintree River, where she had lost her life. If these horrifying crocodile encounters left you shaken, click the next video to witness even more deadly predator attacks that will haunt your nightmares.